Hello and welcome to Juicy Scoop. I had a great weekend performing in Miami. I met so many of you. Thank you for the wonderful gifts. I got a Christopher Angela Barbie who will be making a debut at a dirty pool. I got, if you remember that story, I got a beautiful Rumbauer Chardonnay, and it's in its own little Veuve sleeve, so it's like the best of both worlds. I got a butter Chardonnay. I got cards. I got a beautiful candle. So to all those people that came, and I'm not just saying that so when you come to see me, that you bring me gifts, but I do appreciate it. HeatherMcDonald.net. San Francisco is back on, and they just opened up the capacity. So you can buy tickets right now before those sell out. And that is, I believe it's August 6th and 7th, that weekend. So go get that. That's at Cobb's. Everything else, HeatherMcDonald.net, but they are moving quickly. All right, this was a story that I remember Juicy Scooper post in my page, Juicy Scoop Obsessed, and it was very suspicious right from the start. I wasn't as suspicious as the Juicy Scooper was about that it being the husband that murdered his wife, because it happened in Greece, and I honestly didn't know what the crime situation was in Greece. But what popped in my mind was the horrible story of the Olympic runner who had the prosthetic legs, who lived in South Africa, and said the crime was so bad he thought someone had broken into his house, and he shot through the bathroom door and killed his beautiful model. Remember that whole trial? So this guy's in Greece. He's 33. His wife's only 20. They had like a 6-month-old baby. I do think that's kind of an interesting age difference. They met on a vacation. He was a pilot. Beautiful family. Posted on Instagram about how great their life was. He called the police and said that men came into the house. They took $10,000 that they had in a safe that they were saving to do something with their home with. They killed the dog, in which the dog was hanging and strangled. And they smothered and killed his wife because she screamed, and they were about to shoot him, but they decided to run off instead, and they didn't hurt the baby either. And they tied him up, but he released from his ties, and he called the police. The town was only of 2,000 people. They were freaking out that this happened in their town. They were very, very scared, like, what is going on? Anyway, the police were always very suspicious of him. They played it right. They let him speak at the funeral. He did a couple interviews saying, I just want them to find these people. I hope this doesn't happen to anybody else. And then they finally took him in. And after 8 hours of questioning, he did admit to murdering his wife. He said they were seeing a therapist who then was interviewed by the police. She was doing therapy with them separately, not really couples therapy. So she knew the wife was unhappy. They went and looked at her phone and talked to some of her friends who said that she was unhappy, that he was very controlling, and that she wanted to leave him. And so what happened that night was they got in a fight, and she's like, that's it, I'm leaving you. She put the baby in the crib to start gathering some of her stuff, and he snapped and he smothered her and he killed her. He then made this elaborate plan to look like people had come in. Part of that plan was choosing to murder the dog. So bizarre. Murdered the dog and hung it from the staircase, which also made it look like, what is this weird, sinister group that, wants to, is this some type of weird gang sign? I don't know, that they'd kill this dog. Of course, he allowed his daughter to live. Just crazy. And then, but what really was the greatest evidence is she had one of those fit watches on her wrist, and it showed that she stopped moving, stopped breathing at a time. And then he said that several hours later that, these people broke in and did this. So the time of her death didn't correlate. Also, he removed the security cameras. They had stopped filming at like 1:20, and it showed that her body stopped moving at like 12:30 a.m. So they had the evidence. They were very good about making sure they had it all before they arrested him, got him to admit it. So sad for this little girl, and but he really played along like the grieving husband. And I go back and forth all the time with the Scott Peterson, but I recently said that is what I think happened. I think she found out he was cheating yet again. I think she said, that's it. You're going to have to pay for this baby for the next 18 years. I'm going to keep this house. You're going to get shit. You're going to live in a gross studio apartment. I'm done with you. And all of our friends and family will know what a piece of shit you are. And he snapped. And by smothering her, which is exactly what this guy did, there was no blood evidence or anything. But of course, he left the body there saying somebody else did it. Horrible tragedy, but at least we know who did it. So, guys, big news over the weekend. Real Houses of OC had a huge shakeup. Kelly Dodd was let go, along with Bronwyn and along with Elizabeth Vargas. And Heather Dubrow is, in fact, coming back. If you're a Juicy Scooper, you've known about this for days. But what transpired after that was kind of crazy. Bronwyn, I guess, wrote Kelly Dodd this text, and Kelly Dodd actually shared it on her grid. Bronwyn says, I hope you're okay. I know we've been through hell and back, but I'm here. They did not get along. They did not have any correspondence. I don't know that Bronwyn really was hanging out with any of the girls after that reunion. And in that reunion, well, let me finish this text first. But I just think it's interesting that how would have the show, they would have thrown these girls back together and it would have been fake. So kind of wonder and try to figure out why they were let go. As far as Bronwyn goes, I know that she really was not in contact with any of the other girls that were currently in the cast. So Bronwyn says to a text, hope you're okay. I know we've been through hell and back, but I'm here. Kelly writes, this was your fault. We'd still be on the show if you didn't make things so dark and ugly and brought all that political woke BS. Your lies about me, calling me a racist and a homophobe were horribly, and then I think it went on the next page, but then Bronwyn writes back and says, okay, well, I'm still sober and gay. Bronwyn has since made that a t-shirt, so if you'd like to buy that. Then Bronwyn goes on with her husband on Instagram's IGTV, and they answered a lot of questions, and I was, in Miami. What else am I doing while I'm like ready to lay out? And I watched it, and they actually came off well. She also did, she also said, this was interesting, that she says, when I was confronted by Shannon Bedore at the reunion, saying that I went to her daughter at a party and said, when you want the good stuff, meaning drugs, come to me. She's like, I was drunk and everything during that time. So when someone says I did something horribly, as someone in AA, I own it, I apologize, and, if I don't remember it, I don't remember it. After it was done, she spoke to her husband who was there and a couple other sources that have since gotten confirmation that, in fact, according to these people, it didn't happen. What do I know? It didn't happen. It involves a child. Bronwyn's like, I don't want to involve the child, but I could never defend myself afterwards because there was a gag order after the reunion on any kind of press. So I thought once I get back on the show, this is something we can address and really clear up where did this miscommunication happen, because these people that were also witnesses said it didn't happen. Well, she's not going to have that opportunity on the show, so she tried to do it here. She also went on Kate Casey's podcast and talked a little bit about that as well. So I thought that was interesting. Also, she said when she found out that she was not going to be on the show anymore, she got a call. She was at a beach. She was with her girlfriend, Fernanda, who was the girl that made out with Tamara once. She was like a friend, or she was supposed to be a regular housewife, but then wasn't. She was going to be the first lesbian on the show before Bronwyn. Anyway, they're now dating. I don't think that's a secret. They're dating, and they were together. She said she burst into tears, crying by her car. And I said, oh, isn't that interesting that the paparazzi wasn't there for that? Anyway, she said, here I was excited to show the first lesbian relationship on The Housewives. My girlfriend was going to be on it. And, my girlfriend was going to be on it. And I thought, that's interesting too. She's like, so now we have to change everything. we are going to go on a trip, a family trip now, but we weren't going to because I thought we were going to start filming the show. Apparently, the producers had called everybody and asked if they'd been vaccinated. So some of the cast members felt pretty confident they were coming back. That was a great sign. I would think so too. And I also thought, is Fernando or Fernanda now bummed because they were thinking we're going to be on the Housewives together. That'll be fun. Whatever Fernanda's business is, I'm sure we'll feature it. I'm sure we'll go shopping at that store or rub that lotion on our bodies. So she really misses fame. She said she was addicted to fame, and I hope she does well. I thought she came off well in these things, but we'll see what happens. But she was really gracious about Bravo. And then Elizabeth Vargas, she did a very gracious post too. Like, I love doing it. I thought I was coming back. I was very surprised I wasn't, but it is what it is. I was ready to show my story. I had spoken to her and she had thought that she was coming back. So I think all three of them were quite shocked. Heather Dubrow is for sure coming back. They're going to start filming any day now. I think any one of them could probably come back at some point. So you do kind of want to try to be nice to the network. But then Glonessa and Kelly Dodd got in a fight over the weekend. I mean, I was just so busy. What happened was Glonessa commented under Heather Dubrow's post saying, I'm coming back to Orange County. And Glonessa said something to the effect, I'm going to summarize, in with the class, out with the ass, and made some reference to Kelly Dodd. Page 6 called Kelly Dodd, made her aware of it, of what Glonessa said from Shaws of Sunset, also a Bravo show. Kelly made some reference to, I don't even know who that is. I don't watch that show. That got back to Glonessa, who had some time on her hands, and she really got pissed. And they went back and forth a few times with videos and whatnot. And Glonessa found a clip from a reunion where Kelly said, if I was to be on any show, it would be Shaw's. And then she's like, how do you say you don't know me? Kelly's like, oh my God, I that was 5 years ago. I really don't watch it. And I'm sorry, I don't know which character you are. I know MJ and Reza. Glonessa's like, not good enough. Glonessa says, here I am. This is a show about, people of color on Bravo, and we've done so well, and I've been on for 10 years, and I have a disability in hearing. Then somehow it got back to Kelly, and she said something. It went back so many times. Anyway, it was a lot. Also with the internet fighting, let me update you on the Chrissy Teigen. As you know, Chrissy Teigen, all these tweets came out of all the awful things and people that she's bullied and told to die came out. She apologized. After she apologized, designer Micah Costello says, I've been keeping this for years, but back in 2014, she bullied me for a fake post that someone made fake of me in which I said the N-word, which wasn't true. Once it was proven not to be true, I said, could you please take it down, call me, try to fix this, don't perpetuate it. He then said that he DM'd her, and he said, could I please call you? And Chrissy said, no, I don't want to have anything to say to you. You will always get what's coming to you. He pleaded again, Chrissy, I've never called anyone the N-word. Those fake images were photographed from a disgruntled employee. And then she wrote, good luck with that. LMAO. Hope that story keeps your already dead career going. He said, please call me with his number. I'm suffering from this more than you can imagine. So many people are attacking me over this. It's a fake story, but your comment is adding more fuel to the fire. She says, good, racist people like you deserve to suffer and die. You might as well be dead. Your career is over. This is a DM exchange that then he shared about a week ago. Then Leona Lewis chimed in and said, hey, I'm bullying online and being cruel and ruining people's careers is awful. But I was excited to work with Michael Costello, and I found him to be very dismissive. He was not happy that I wasn't a tinier size, and this was my experience, and it wasn't good. And I'm just going to share that. So we're like, oh my God, who's the asshole? Is everybody the asshole? I'm so tired. So I'm explaining the story on the beach to Jill Zarin, and Lisa and Brittany Gastineau. If you remember those, they were the Gastineau girls. It was a short-lived series about a mother and daughter, like the Gilmore Girls, but reality, and they're both gorgeous, living in LA, and they were on E! Before the Kardashians. So we are all hanging out at the beach before my show, and I'm explaining the story, and all of a sudden Jill goes, "Oh my God, I had an issue with Michael Costello." I'm like, "Jill, what happened?" She's like, "Well, I had my book, Secrets of a Jewish Mother out, and Vicki Gulbinson had her book. We were doing a book signing together. And I got there and I took an aspirin and I accidentally took an Ambien, and I was about to fall asleep and I was like, just get me out of here. And I tried to get through it as quickly as possible. I got home in a car and don't even remember. And then the next day or that night, she got this email from Michael Costello. And this was in 2010. He said this incident with Chrissy happened 2014. "Dear Jill, I wish I could say it was a pleasure meeting you, but I can't. I have never been more humiliated in all my life. Not only did you force me to buy your book, but you treated me like I was some kind of fan who has been waiting to see you for 3 hours in line. I'm a friend of Vicki Gunvalson and other housewives. When you told me this is a book event, and if I want to speak to you or take a picture, I have to buy the book. Indeed, I planned on buying the book. I was just shocked that you would treat someone like me in front of their friends, and trust me, everyone there knew who I was, except for you and Darren, who was her assistant. I'm a fashion designer who has worked with the most successful names in fashion and in the entertainment industry. I do not need to brag about myself in an email. My work to be validated. I came to meet you because I was contacted by your stylist to design a dress for you or to custom make something for you. I am deeply hurt at the way I was treated. I know your power and your connections to the fashion industry, and you can get clothes free all you want. Okay, I must be a nobody or daydreamer. I returned the book, and I took my friends out for a round of drinks that cost about $28 and some change. Anyway, have a good one." I see the emails. She apologizes. Years later, she reaches out again in 2014 and says, "I see that you're doing something for Beyonce." She apologizes again about the Ambien. He is very nice in that exchange in 2014. Like I said, this one happened in 2010. So he said this happened in 2014. Someone went in and they believe, along with Chrissy and her husband, that he doctored it because of two things. One, it goes from purple to blue, and that didn't happen until like 2016 or 18. There was a question about her photo. There was a question about her name being misspelled, but it wasn't misspelled, so I don't know if someone said that. And then there was like a video icon option that I don't show right here, but that they said is a sign that happened after. So they're saying he doctored it. He then goes, "I didn't doctor it. This just goes to show you that you and your team going after me again. You are a bully. I'm going off social media for a while. I'm done." If you'd like to know my opinion, which you do, this is what I think happened. I think she obviously saw this fake N-word tweet of his and did make a big deal out of it, and he was getting a lot of heat for it. I think he reached out to her, which is the first post in the purple. And I think she said, "Good luck with that, and I hope that story keeps your already dead career going." Excuse me. I think the second part may have not happened. That's what I think. I think maybe he added to it, possibly, because something doesn't add up. But I definitely think there was some type of exchange, and he might very much believe that she tried to keep him from having jobs and whatnot. I don't know. But then what was interesting is that he reached out years later, and she had that on a DM saying, like, "That lipstick looks pretty in your story. Hope you are well." So it's almost like when someone, it's just interesting. Like, he's not denying that she treated him bad. He's saying that she did treat him bad. He acts like he took it and just was horrified and scared forever. Well, he tried to be friendly years later when he might have been over it. Then this came up with all the Courtney Stodden stuff, and he in fact was like, well, I was a victim of her meanness too. Here's the proof. And then they're like, we don't know if this is really true. So John Legend said, I hope the people that talked about this will talk about this second part. So I wanted to give you the latest. I'm personally sick of all of them. And and by the way, in between, I did a DM Michael Costello because he was in Miami, and I invited him to my show before the second part happened where they said it was fake. And he was very nice about it. But then after I invited him, I never heard, and he didn't come. But he never said he was going to come and didn't come. I just never heard again because then this shit happened, and now he said he's off social media, supposedly. So there you go. I watched the Kardashian reunion with Andy, and it was really good. I'm going to get into a little more detail on Thursday when I have a little bit of time. But it was great. He did a great job. The girls looked gorgeous. There were a couple interesting things about it. When Kim said that she was almost not going to go through with her wedding to Chris Humphries, and her mom, Chris, said after the rehearsal dinner, and they're actually in Montecito where the wedding is, and she said, I'll get a car, you disappear, and I'll take care of all this, the canceling of the wedding. You do not need to marry him. I thought that was super juicy. And also, she's like, no, all these people are coming. And I'm like, oh my God, I think she was thinking about me and my borrowed jewels. And I would have been devastated if we heard that day that she wasn't going to get married. But I had a borrowed dress and borrowed jewels. We weren't even staying in that nice of a hotel. We didn't fly in for it. It would have been fine. We drove there. It would have been fine. Kim, I just want you to know that. Khloe admitted to a nose job. She just said, no one's ever asked me straight up before. So now I'll tell you, yes, I got a nose job. And of course, Kylie, we know she got her lips done. And Kylie said, I kissed this guy. And he said, you're such a good kisser, which is weird because your lips are so thin. And that is what started her love of makeup, that she could overdraw her lips. Then she got her lips done, and the rest is history. And they said, that guy should really have a lip kit because he's the one who inspired it all. That was kind of fun. Kendall came off great. She looked stunning. It was just really good. Andy just did a great job. He asked all the hard questions. He asked Kim, do you think your family would be, do you think you'd be as famous and the show would be as famous without the sex tape? And she's like, probably not. That added to a lot of notoriety. It just, the other thing they said that Chris's friends were very rude, and some family friends and some kids at Kendall and Kylie's school were very rude when the show first started. That they were like, it's so lowbrow, you're doing reality. And then after about 3 or 4 years, they came around. I remember that time. I think that's why we became kind of close during that time, because her regular friends did dump her. They did think that it was like tacky. Some of them she's very close to today, but she wasn't hearing from them at the time. That'll be for Patreon. And anyway, they all looked gorgeous, and we'll see what they do on Hulu. Meanwhile, Paris is getting married, and she is going to have a TV series on Peacock, and it's going to be all about her doing her wedding. So get ready for that. Will you watch? Probably. If you have Peacock, people will probably watch. And if you don't have Peacock, I don't think that's going to be the series that's going to make people buy it. But let's hope she just ends up actually getting married this time. I think it'll be fun. It's just sort of interesting. As the Kardashians stopped the reality show, supposedly, she's stepping back into it, and everyone's friends. Interesting. And now, you guys, I'm really excited to have my interview with Kimberly Archie from The Housewife and the Hustler. She's back in person here in the studio, and we're going to get all the latest juicy scoop and everything that was not covered in the doc. Here we go. Hello, and welcome to Juicy Scoop. I have a return guest, the woman everyone wants to talk to. However, I did talk to her first on Juicy Scoop, from The Housewife and the Hustler. Now my friend, Kimberly Archie. Welcome back to Juicy Scoop.
Thanks for having me.
Now you're in studio. Last time we did a Zoom, and I can't remember. Do you remember when that was in scheme of like the timeline of her announcing her divorce or whatnot?
That was like 2 months after the divorce-ish.
Okay, that was announced. And how did I find you? Did somebody connect us? I know that you're very active on Twitter, so I remember I think I DM'd you on Twitter and was like, would you come on? And then you got back to me.
I saw that you were talking about the topic, and
okay.
So I followed you and linked with you, and then I just kind of said hello and told you who I was, and then you DM me back, and then we talked on the phone, and then you said, when you're ready, let me know, and I'll have you on the show. And so I waited a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I think we connected like in December.
Yes, that's what I was
right
trying
when
to
it all
remember.
blew up. So it was just sort of, I needed a chance to catch my breath.
Yeah. And then, okay, and then we both were on The Housewife and the Hustler, which is available on Hulu now. And, you know, I figured they were going to utilize you, but I don't think we talked. We didn't talk as I went to go do my interview or you going to do your interview. And I'm so happy how much you were featured, as well as your friend and the victims. And I thought that was like, and what was unfortunate is that so many people that didn't watch it all the way through, or even Housewife fans or people that, you know, have podcasts about Housewives were like, oh my God, you know, these people are on it right from the top. This is, you know, I'm not even going to bother. Even Andy Cohen did not watch it. And I'm like, you know, you really have to watch the whole thing. The first few minutes or 10 minutes, I think that was to just set the stage in case you didn't know who she was and who he was. Then you can enjoy the whole thing no matter if you had any history with it or not.
I mean, they're the reason the story was done to some degree. And, you know, frankly, I got to give ABC a lot of credit for tackling a task that sort of required balancing a sort of salacious story with like real victims who've gone through some serious hardships like we saw in the doc. So I thought it was a tough task for them to balance those two things. And maybe I wouldn't have picked both the people that everyone's talking about. Maybe I would have only done one to maybe, like, you know, to get a little sizzle. I mean, come on, you had to have something that everyone's going to talk about. You know,
and it worked. I mean, they all did talk about, like, what's Danielle Staub doing on there. I thought she wasn't used that much. The things that she said made me, like, perk up and kind of laugh. So what, you know? And, you know, and other housewives, if they just wanted to have housewives, I know that they either probably didn't want to do it or they wanted to be paid.
Exactly.
To make it clear, none of us were paid. You don't. Every time I've done Nightline, which is how the producers knew me, but then they also follow Juicy Scoop, is I don't get paid for that.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like, I think, you know, there was some understanding, well, like, if I'm going to get an ex-housewife that already has ties with Bravo that have been cut, they're going to want like $5 or $10 grand. And they just do not do that for this kind of journalism. So I just want to make that clear that, like, people weren't paid.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, me and Kathy watched it and we thought it was funny. And I have to say, like, I thought Dana did really well.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm surprised. Don't be, you know, hope that doesn't come off the wrong way. But
No,
honestly, I am. I mean, I don't know. And I don't know that much about it. But I did know that clip about, you know, the $25,000 sunglasses. So if I know that, you know, a lot of people know about it.
Right. So it makes
I kind
sense.
of went like, you know, when the teaser came out, I mean, we were a little worried.
Yeah, because you guys really weren't in it at all, were you?
No.
Yeah.
No, and it was very salacious and like tantalizing.
Yeah.
But I mean, people have to realize this was done in a really short amount of time. And so when that teaser came out, they were still editing it. Mm-hmm. You know, it was still really in the process. It wasn't in the can sitting there ready to go. This all happened in, you know, very much like live time.
Right.
You know, this is as fast as you could turn around, you know, a real life story to do something at this length, in this depth. I mean, I've seen criticisms, but
I got one person who wrote me that's like, oh, I've been a Juicy Scooper for years and it is not going to be associated with this. You need to have yourself removed. I'm like, oh, obviously you don't know how TV works. Like, oh, hi, the show that's already running on Hulu and is a big hit. Could you cut me out? I don't like to be associated with these people. I mean, you signed something being like, I agree to what I'm going to say here can be used.
Yep.
And, you know, and then I did write that person back. I'm like, did you watch the whole thing? because it's only from the people that do not watch the whole thing that are like critical of that part of it. But let's get but you did say that you wrote to the producers or called them and you were not pleased with the trailer.
Well, I would say me and Joe and Kathy were all very nervous and worried. And mostly because we knew it would be a big story, and we did it. We wanted to get it right. And then I would say, if you've seen it, and I won't spoil it for everybody if they haven't seen it, but if you see the closing part of it with Joe and what he did, then you'll understand why me and Kathy were like, this better not be completely salacious, because we did not put Joe in an interview situation like that for it not to be hard-hitting journalism. But
I don't think it's ruining that because it's not like the end of a, fictional movie. But okay, the thing that I didn't talk about when I was covering it earlier were the creepy voicemails that I guess, I don't know if they'd be creepy if you received them and you still believe that this person wasn't stealing your money.
Right.
In the case of Joe, he was awarded a lot of money. And he took, he gave a little bit to him and then said, oh my gosh, this $11 million or whatever that's left, $12 million, I'm going to help invest it. There's this judge that, has just seen so many young people like get taken advantage of. So we're going to do this. And they're like, okay, we don't need the $12 million right now. It's because it's for the ongoing medical care that Joe's going to need for the rest of his life as his skin moves, grows. And, who knows when you're that severely burned, really, the fact that he's alive is a miracle. So there's not a lot of examples of people like, oh, and then 10 years this happens,
Exactly.
So, and obviously he always wants to be on the cutting edge of whatever is available for him. So then they start to realize, like, okay, so are they supposed to get a check like once a month, like a stipend, or how did it work?
So yeah, he was supposed to give Joe payments, which he did for a number of years.
Okay.
So it did establish some kind of, pattern where it seemed like, it was a good idea. And, people don't realize when you're in a situation like this, you want to be conservative as possible because this is a medical fund.
Yeah.
And your kid is in his 20s. He could live to be 70 years old if he has good medical care.
Right.
So you don't want to, you can get taken advantage of by a financial advisor too. I mean, just look at NFL players and all the
exactly.
pro athlete stories. We didn't want Joe to end up like that.
True.
And so, initially it seemed like the safest thing to do at the moment, because if you're getting 6% and you're just going to do it for a little while till you get your bearings and then find the proper financial planner, then that takes the pressure off Kathy to take her time finding the right person.
Right.
And by the time she got her bearings, then my son died. See, so, there was all this.
So now let's talk about your son, because people did have a little bit of questions about that. So he was riding a motorcycle and he crashed.
Right.
And so who were you suing? The person that hit him or what? Because that's where people were confused.
Right. So, yeah, my son's case was a very complicated case because he died at 24 years old. He's driving over 70 miles an hour in a 35-mile-an-hour zone on a motorcycle that I didn't even know he had. He had no real experience on them or anything, and only had it for a short period of time. But anyway, when the police called to tell me about, how he died, it just seemed really out of character for him, meaning that, had he been on a racetrack or, driving down a mountain where he thought nobody was and going fast. I mean, he's a guy. I mean, my brother's a Navy jet pilot. Like, I know how men love risk. So that wouldn't have been just like an aha moment or anything, but he rammed into a car with a woman with 2 children. And he was just such a sensitive person. I just can imagine being so reckless. He was coming home from work on Labor Day, like what was going on? And so he had played a lot of football as a kid, and I had worked on the NFL brain injury case with Tom. And so I had his brain sent to brain bank and his brain checked for CTE and brain damage. And his brain autopsy came back with extensive brain damage. He had a thin corpus callosum and large ventricle like an old man. He had early stage CTE, which is chronic traumatic encephalopathy. And I even said it right, finally.
Yeah.
And so we sued Pop Warner Football is only the second case, the first in federal court. I have a co-plaintiff, Joe Cornell. Her son, Tyler, also died by suicide. And so, we couldn't just get any lawyer to take on football.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody knows, but, football, guns, and flags are very important.
Yeah.
And so, there's only a handful of attorneys in California that could take on an industry like that. And those guys are all buddies.
Yeah.
I did have one attorney that was willing to take the case, but his caveat was to go to Tom and give him a chance to take it. And if Tom didn't want to take it, then he would. So I met with Tom at the Jonathan Club 6 weeks before my statute of limitations would be up.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, "Why wouldn't you want me to do it?"
Mm-hmm.
Well, what was I supposed to say?
And at that time you didn't, because you already had some suspicions that he wasn't paying your friend on time, or
He hadn't stopped the payments yet.
okay.
So let's say that the time. Let's look at the time. So this would be September 1st, 2016.
Okay.
So in the doc, we share, meaning me, Kathy, and Joe, that the payments stopped the following year.
Uh-huh.
So after he had us locked in, then he got more confident. Like, what are they going to do? Because now we're doing Kim's son's case.
Mm.
So he felt, it's my opinion that he felt like he had the upper hand. And what were we going to do? And so Kathy didn't think he was running out of money or anything like that at that time.
Right.
And we didn't have the proof. If you Googled his name, people had been complaining for years.
Right.
We read about all that. That's why that whole line in the doc, I had said that to Kathy a number of times. Like, who are we going to call? Ghostbusters? Like, everybody's Tom's friend. I mean,
the governor, Governor Gavin Newsom is his friend. The California bar. Yeah.
Obama, Biden, previous California governors.
All these were his
Feinstein,
friends. Yeah.
Pelosi, the
And he
chief
gave
of
to
police.
He gave to all these campaigns financially.
And I did a lot of lobbying on behalf of kids, and Tom believed in those kinds of causes. Like, he loved what it appeared to be helping people.
Yeah.
But now, in hindsight, those were things maybe that put him in the spotlight. So, maybe that was more of the reason that he seemed to love the political system so much. I mean, power and getting your name out there.
Yeah, I mean, I know people who personally know him, and there were instances where, there was a problem, and right away they called him, and he was like, "I'm going on my jet right now to go over to Nevada or wherever it was," and the problem was then gone.
Yeah,
like it was so if you were his friend and you needed him, it was great. But if you were his client and now he's holding the purse strings to your money, then it's kind of scary. And with anybody that's been in a money lending situation, oh my God, that feeling of like, they're not calling me back right away. Oh my God, there was a problem with the bank. And in your heart, you're fucked. You know it. And you're like, no, it'll be fine. It'll be fine.
And this is too much money. I mean,
For
me and Kathy, we're like, look, they did not oversell the whole moms on a mission thing in the doc. I mean, this literally was like, Kathy was not going to let someone take her son's money after she fought so hard for him to live, to have a good quality of life, to get this settlement so he could be okay. And so, the amount of effort that they made to really stop him is unbelievable. I mean, one of the things people don't know is in the doc, they play a little clip of Tom's deposition, but there are other aspects of it where, literally, Tom could not borrow any more money from legal lenders because of the Ruben Gomez case. That's what put the crack in the armor.
It's you guys going after him.
Right, because the legal lenders were what were keeping him afloat and keeping, all the balls juggling. And so when the Ruben Gomez filed in 2019 in June
against Tom to get their money,
and they were very eloquent about how they filed, for a number of reasons, because, Joe doesn't need to be just thrown out there for everybody to, he doesn't need to be thrown into the limelight because Tom did this to him. Like, he had been through enough. And so it was done in a way to stop him, to put him out of business, to, you know, get his law license and to get their money back. But obviously, as we saw in the deposition, we learned he was out of money. So then we're like, you know, that was a shocking moment for everybody. I mean, did we think the money would be endless? I mean, no, but the amount of money that they ran through is mind-boggling because...
And do you think they ran through it that much at that speed and that excessive amount because of Erika's career that began 10 years ago?
I mean, hey, even the bar said that they'd had complaints going back 40 years. So I'm not going to blame Erika for who Tom was. But frankly, they seem like two peas in a pod. So that's a whole nother gig. So, you know, they both had their own gigs. I mean, he was doing this before. You know, Erika was, you know, ambitious and came from, you know, a background of doing what it takes to make it where you got to make it. I mean, you know, she made a lot of decisions to try to put herself...
She's at the same strip club as Danielle Staub. Not at the same time, but the same strip club. Nothing wrong with strippers either. Go for it.
Yeah,
but
you know, I wouldn't mess with any New Jersey strippers. I would say, like, I don't know, you know, I would have some level of respect for that because, you know, you know, that's a tough area.
I think, this is what I think. I think at one point along the road of Tom Girardi, he was like, ooh, you know, he gets his check for some enormous amount of something. And he goes, well, I need that to cover this. And these people aren't going to know, or I can set them off. I can make them wait. And then he started to do it like most Ponzi people, where he was like, well, I'll just do it this once. And then it became a way of business for many years. And the other part that I thought was interesting, and I think one of the first articles that came out, the 360, is that there were so many cases that were also just settled on the phone, like any other insurance case. You know, you get in a car accident and they're like, okay, I got you this much. You know, if they offered you 800, I got you, you know, 7,000. Great, done. You don't know. You don't know if actually the guy got 20,000 and told you they got 7. Now that's unethical, but now we know Tom's unethical. So how many people were told, you know, I'm going to try to get you 5. He really gets 12. He goes, guess what? I actually got you 6. And he keeps 6 for himself.
Yeah.
And they're like thrilled. They're like, oh my God, thank you, Tom Girardi. They don't know because there wasn't a trial where it was, you know, the judge announced it. So how do they know?
Well, and if you have 1,000 people in a lawsuit, you know, how do you, you know, where are the checks and balances for that? And as we can see, there isn't any.
Yeah.
And that becomes a systemic issue. I mean, I think that was an important part of the documentary and something that Kathy said in the Law 360 article is like, where's the California bar? Where's the system? I mean, one of the things most people don't realize is, you know, California is the only state in the U.S. that lawyers don't have to report another lawyer if they know they're being naughty. Oh, well, gee, maybe we should change that.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, like these are things that, like, people wanted to, I know people had questions like, how could this have happened to these two, you know, friends?
Yeah.
Like, we appreciate the friendship, but wow, like, how did this happen? I mean, and when you start to see the loopholes in state law, then you're like, oh, now I see how this happened, but that's nuts. And it is. And, you know,
and then giving so much money to Gavin Newsom, our governor, and then he, in return, gives Tom a position where he appoints judges. Now this person's like, hi, I want to be a judge. Ooh, I am a judge. I owe it to Tom. Now Tom comes to the judge. Yeah. Can you make this deal work? Well, of course, for you, Tom. I just went to your Christmas party where there were reindeers coming down from the sky. I have a friend who'd go to the Christmas parties that he would throw that were so extravagant. It makes the Kardashians look like sugar cookies were served. Like, literally, like,
no, when I would go to them, I would think, who wouldn't want a wedding this good? It's a Christmas party. You know, this is like you know, the venue and the food. Like, if for any woman, that would be like a dream wedding, what they did for a Christmas party.
And, I mean, so it was just really there no limits. But I heard an interesting story from a friend of mine, and she said, you know, I just thought of this about, you know, 15 so many years ago. She was out here and she was doing quite well in entertainment. And back then people would get like development deals and stuff. So it'd be like, oh, here's, you know, a chunk, there's $500,000. So you cannot get a sitcom with anybody but NBC. You're so hilarious. That doesn't really happen anymore. But at that time it did. They were just throwing money. And she was kind of like, I don't know what to do with this money. And she was friendly with, coincidentally, a stripper in her building that was sleeping with one of the Girardi attorneys in that pool. And he said, well, what you should do is you should give it to me, $250 or whatever, it's $275. I'll hold it till the new year because we have insurance for money through our trust funds of this stuff. We'll insure your money. You don't have to go to another bank and get the insurance more than the $100,000. We'll give you it for the $275 for us now. And then come, you know, mid-January or whatever, then you give it back and then you won't be taxed. I don't know what the deal was. And she's like, well, how the hell will I ever get it back? Like, where do she's smart, you know, she was just like, this is bullshit. Like, I know I don't know about money, but I know like a crook.
But what is that not just
but that's
what you're saying?
Yes.
Right.
That this was a practice that they did. That they were.
And look how smart your friend was.
Yeah.
And her background. Don't we think that Erika's smart?
Yeah.
Like, that's the one thing I don't think Erika's dumb.
Yes.
Like, I don't know. People can say
now,
what
you
they
also
want,
said that because you at one time you worked for Tom as a researcher for quite a many years, and you said that she would come to the law office and hang out.
Yeah, before Housewives.
Yeah.
She would come to functions. The first 10 years of their marriage, she kind of, you know, camped out at the office. And she says that in one of the shows about how she was, you know, by his side for 10 years. Well, that's literally like she would sit at the office in a tracksuit and normal makeup, not Glam Squad makeup.
Yeah.
You know, but she was young. She was in her 20s.
Right.
So his 20-some-year-old wife sitting at the office around all the partners, posted up in her tracksuit, you know, hey.
What was she doing? Just listening?
You know, I wasn't around them, but I've just heard about how, you know, everyone either thought it was like strange or, you know, whatever. People just kind of, I mean, what are you going to do? It's Tom. I mean, it's not like you could say to him, hey, this is weird. Like, why is she camped out? So, you know, to say she had no clue, she was, you know, she bragged in one of the shows, which I saw in a clip like on Instagram or something about, you know, being the head of some, you know, women's legal stuff or whatever, and that she was, you know, at all these dinners and meetings and functions. And even in one of the lawsuits recently by a local law firm in Santa Clarita for $25 million in legal fees that they were owed. In one of the letters from one of the attorneys, they said Erika was at the meeting discussing with co-counsel the fees. There's so many, there's endless examples of that stuff, of her literally being in the room when things are discussed. I mean, so.
Well, it's just kind of interesting the more I think look back on my own exchange with her, watching the show, I've read her book, is that like, you know, she comes out here from New York to be a star. I don't know if she thought she could be on Friends or whatever, but there was plenty of work in New York. It's not like she was in Kansas. So she's like, okay, I come out here.
Maybe it's for the weather. That's why the rest of us live here.
Come out, be actor. She struggling, doing auditions. She meets Tom Girardi. He's like, great, come marry me. But then she doesn't, you know, go to acting classes anymore. She doesn't study anymore. Was her goal really just to be rich? I mean, was it really like, no, I have to do my craft? Then 10 years later, she goes, how many bags can I buy? How much can I shop? I'm bored. I'm probably bored with him a little. He, I think, found someone else. And she knew about that person, because I might have very good sources. And, or I might just be thinking in my head, he had somebody else. And she's like,
might
hey.
know something too, but who knows?
And she's like, hey, you know what? We didn't sign a prenup. This is going to cost you a lot of money. But you know, what we can do is I want to be Madonna. And it's going to cost you a lot of money, but I'm going to get my joy. You can take her to Europe. You can take her out to dinner. You can do whatever you want. I'm going to be a star. Then she, hooks up with Mikey and they create this whole thing. And she pays the glam squad. She pays everybody that writes the songs, does the choreography. They all speak highly of her because she was nice. Why shouldn't she be nice? She's spending other people's money that she had to did nothing to get it. And there's an endless well. And so of course she's going to pay people. She's never going to go, oh, you want $5,000 a day? Well, actually, could I just pay you $3,500? No, it was $5,000. It was whatever it was. These people never had made that much money, and the glam squad costs a lot more than $40,000 a month. A lot more.
Because look at what one day.
So this was the one day I found the photo. This is when she came to go to my podcast. I told her it was just audio, and she came with 5 people: the hairdresser, the makeup artist, the stylist, and then Mikey, who's just like her lifestyle consultant. I don't know what you'd call him. And everybody was nice. All of them couldn't have been nicer. And yes, they did go like this to her hair and put on her gloss and fix her the length of her sweater. Why shouldn't they, speak highly of her? I always say, there's a million busboys in Beverly Hills that said OJ was the nicest guy in the world. It's just, of course she was nice. But it was about her. It was just whatever I can get for me, I think. And she either knew or she didn't want to know.
But it was transactional. So why would her knowing be problematic? This is what I want to, this is what I understand what people don't see. It was transactional to begin with. And so.
You mean the relationship with Tom?
Tom and Erika was transactional. So these business things were part of the transactions and they were partners,
Yeah.
Fill in the blank if you want. We'll see. But, they were partners.
And when he did come to the shows, people said he did not watch it. He was outside and didn't. And I was and I go,
he would gush about it though?
He'd gush about it to people.
You heard Joe say, Joe, we all heard it. Me, Kathy, and Joe all heard about it.
He'd gush about it, but I don't think he was necessarily very interested in it because he never saw Chicago and he never read the book.
Yeah.
So I think he was into it like a dad.
He's a Broadway fanatic, and he went on. I remember the time he told me.
But then why did he go?
At the Jonathan Clubs. I don't know.
She said he was going to go clothing day, and of course it got cut short because of COVID. But
again, this is transactional. So maybe by then the pressure of all the money issues was starting to come up, and so because he loves Broadway, he'd show up to someone's Broadway thing just to go. He loved it.
Well, I was looking at those Amex bills that you have, and there was Al Brooks Theater and this and that.
Yeah, he was the ticket
about
guy.
That, what you found.
Yeah, so Al Brooks was the ticket guy for different events, concerts, sports, whatever. But also in this same document are Tom and Erika's Amex bills in 1999, which would have been really early on in their relationship. And
he was still legally married at that time.
He was still legally married. His divorce,
sure.
His divorce was for just the marriage aspect of it, July 21st, 1999 from his second wife. But their divorce battle goes on for 4 more years over assets. So this is where these documents come from. Mm-hmm. And so it shows first month on the Amex bill, it's $9,000, and every month it basically goes up. And by
I just thought it was $9,000, and then it was $15,000. Then the third month it was $34,000, and by the next month her amount just for Erika Jayne was $65,000. So the more she spent, it's I was saying, she probably. First month, she was probably woo, going to BB and BCBG. And then the next month, she's I think I can shop at Nordstrom. Third month,
I'm at Louis Vuitton.
Yeah, let's do Louis Vuitton and Neiman's. And then by the next, by the $65,000 month, she's you know what, baby? It's Rodeo Drive. Cartier, Gucci. Why not? Why not? Why not me? Why not?
To me, it was the jets, though, was such a big thing. They had 2 jets. My brother owns a company that manages that kind of aircraft. And, you got to be a legit billionaire, really, to have 2 planes like that sitting on standby. So you've got to really be cranking the dough in. And, you know, now looking back, at first when he would tell me how excited he was for Erika to do the show, and I was like, weird, because he always thought
Housewives,
Real Housewives. He was really excited about it, and it shocked me, and I couldn't figure out why. But now, looking at everything we know now, I think he saw Erika going on Housewives as a chance for him to blow up, so he could get more cases and catch up from all the money he was behind and owing.
Yes.
Finally figured that out. I mean, that's my theory.
No, because
I'm not
true.
saying like
No, because you're right. Because
we're just the moms on a mission, but that's my theory
because
now.
Because somebody that doesn't follow all this stuff, you know, and a horrible tragic thing happens to them, they might go with the first attorney that knocks on the door. But if they're watching this show and they're like in some small town and they just had, you know, some chemical blow up thing, they're going to be like, no, we need to go to Aaron Brockovich, you know, attorney Erika Jayne's husband.
That was some good marketing.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Who can say the Aaron Brockovich movie isn't amazing?
Yeah.
That Julia Roberts wasn't amazing. And I always find it amazing, like, Erika is sort of the pretty woman in Tom's life, and then you got Aaron Brockovich. So Julia Roberts is all over the place, you know. Because she played both of those characters in the movie.
There's so many ties, so many coincidences.
And there's a quote where Tom says that, you know, when he was working on set for Aaron Brockovich, you know, that it was a hard day's work hanging out with Julia Roberts. So I think that's funny.
That's very interesting. Now, what was the other document this other document is kind of interesting that you found. Well, explain this. This is 2 checks from the same day, August 16th, 1996. Now, we don't know what case this was, but what was interesting about it is that one check is for $9 million to Girardi and Keese, which is what you'd think if Girardi and Keese won a case for a client, they'd write the check to him to the law firm first. It's $9 million. They take 40% of the $9 million, and the rest, the check gets cut. Here you go.
Yeah.
But there's one check for $9 million on August 16th, 1996, and then there's another check for $9 million just to Tom V. Girardi.
Yeah, you know, one of these checks was mentioned in an article, and I just thought it was interesting that there was 2 in these documents, and that, just like you pointed out, one was to himself, one was to the law firm. I mean, and this goes back to documents that a judge saw in 2003 in this divorce. So you know,
in the divorce, in his divorce with the second wife,
right, with Kathy, and Erika's now married to him because their divorce in name only, meaning the marriage aspect of it, giving Tom the right to remarry, happens July 21st, 1999. But they continue to fight about assets for 4 more years. So while Erika's sitting at the law firm, he's battling this war. They spend millions of dollars. Like the documents.
Fighting the divorce of the How long was he married to the second wife, and how did he marry her?
So I wasn't around during this time either. So these are like legends you know, that you hear about. But what I was told is that this woman, Kathy, loved lawsuits or trials, and she would go sit on trials at the courthouse and watch them. And that's how she met Tom, was being like a trial watcher. I don't know. I didn't know there was such a thing till I heard about this. So that's how they met. It's my understanding that, you know, based on some court records, that they had a relationship for 5 years and then were married for 3. And then they get divorced, and it's this huge, you know, no prenup then as well, big battle. You see in the documents her say things like, you know, if I can't, you know, move forward with this, I'm not gonna be able to get another lawyer. Like, he's going to make good on his promise, is what she wrote in a declaration.
Kind of like a Betty Broderick, that, you know, she was married to such a prominent attorney who also, he did lawsuits against doctors, malpractice lawsuits, but he was so powerful in San Diego that that was her complaint. I can't get anyone good to represent me.
I mean, I feel like Kathy, the second wife, is an ass kicker too. Because, I mean, in the end, she did end up getting some amount of money. I mean, she fought him for years. She has since passed away. I mean, I think she'd be the most fascinating person to talk to, because she spent 4 years in a legal battle.
And only married for 3.
Right. Yeah. That's a good point. I mean, and I guess they
do you know if he was with his first wife who he had the children with when he started to pursue this crime watcher lady?
I don't think there's any overlap to that or anything. I mean, I've never heard.
I think I have heard
but
there
was. Would I be surprised? I mean, nothing would surprise me anymore, and that would kind of be on par. Yeah. You know, on brand.
Right. I think he's someone that requires a lot of attention, and you know, he does have nice eyes, but he's not a great looking guy. He was always short, and not that there's anything wrong with
nothing else needs to be.
Yeah, you're right. Not that matters, but I think that you know, he loved to have then a tall, beautiful woman on his arm. You know?
And she was young.
Yeah,
and you know, the more she wanted to glam up, I mean, the more he felt. You know, it made him look good. I mean, it may not be how everyone else took it, but again, like I said, I mean, he would light up when he talked about her. And, you know, if something is transactional in nature, it doesn't mean people don't have feelings for each other. And it doesn't mean some people are not monogamous. Like, that's what they want. They want to be with multiple people, and they're okay with it.
She may have even known that walking into it. Yeah, like, hey, I'm going to give you anything you want. I'll take care of, you know, your kid. Obviously, the kid's not living there, but, you know, any kind of private school or anything I'll pay for. Anything you want. You can have anything you want on Earth, but, like, you know, I want you to be here.
Well, you saw the ring thing. She said he wasn't going to wear a ring, and he said, I'm not going to wear a wedding ring, but I'll give you anything you want.
Right.
So you just really kind of said that again, in you know, in a more eloquent way. I mean,
like a don't ask, don't tell.
Yeah,
like, I don't, you know, I'm not going to bring the girl to sleep in our bed with us, but if I have a girl on the side, don't ask about it. Like, just don't even get into it.
One thing that my friend Kathy pointed out in these divorce documents, because she read them too, and before me, but there was a part where they were listing Erika's son, and it just says Erika's son. It doesn't say, like, his name. And I don't know. I mean, maybe because it was court records, they were trying to be private.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe Tom couldn't remember his name yet or not. I don't know. It just seemed weird.
Well, I thought it
stood out to Kathy,
I
thought it was weird. I don't know.
I think, like, he couldn't remember his son because he had early Alzheimer's, or just because he didn't care and he
hadn't connected on. You know, it just made me think, like, when Kathy mentioned it to me, she goes, "Do you think it was for privacy?" And I was like, I think it was
weird that he
in 1999, these things weren't online like they are now. So you wouldn't have been thinking, like, in 2021, if your kid's 7 or whatever, and we know how filings are, like, my address was put all over the internet because of the bankruptcy with Tom. So, you know, now I could see that, but in 1999, probably not.
I thought it was weird that he would refer to Joe as the young man.
Oh,
that
God.
made me think of that in those cases, the name slipped him and he didn't want to take the time to go look up the name.
I'm sure he knew for the amount of money that he had, but yeah, he wanted to create this persona that Justice Pinelli was overseeing Joe's money because Joe was so injured and so young, like as if he were a minor. But Joe was 19 when the explosion happened. And yes, he was severely injured. I mean, he was in a coma for over 2 months. People don't hear that in the doc. Joe wasn't in a coma for 2 days. He was in a coma for months. His first meal was Thanksgiving, 2010. It happened September 9th. His first meal, where he got to take a few, like, real bites of food, was Thanksgiving. So he was, in a medically induced coma for a long time. So... And Tom showed up as soon as he woke up.
Wow.
That scene that you see, that was right after Joe woke up.
Yeah.
He came right up there and met him, which at first you're thinking, great.
Right.
He should come meet Joe. I mean, Joe's the one that's been terribly injured, so you're thinking, good. He should take him serious. He is an adult. Yeah. But instead he does the opposite.
But I just realized another criticism I got from being in the doc is I said, here these people thought they hit the jackpot. And I meant the jackpot of attorneys. Like, oh, my God, we have the most powerful attorney. Not that, oh, my God, my son's burned. Whoa, we got the jackpot. No, I did not mean that. And most people didn't think that, but I just want to clarify. If anybody thought when I said that.
I did see somebody in the comments say that. And, and to clarify that even more, yes, we did feel like that, you know,
You got the best person.
Yeah, that we wouldn't have to worry, and that we were so lucky because Joe was so injured, and all the focus at that time really needed to be on his medical stuff and getting him better.
Yeah.
So there was really no like headspace to be worrying about that.
Yeah,
so
to be
we did
interviewing
feel
a bunch of
super
different
lucky.
people. Yeah.
Well, I also want to say that that's not in the doc, and people don't realize they didn't just meet Tom Girardi. They met, meaning Kathy's family and Joe's girlfriend's family. They met with a number of attorneys. It's either 6 or 7. Oh, yes. You know, we just like a doctor, you're going to get a second opinion.
Okay.
You know, so they met with, and some, like one of them was a really big law firm in the Bay Area that would be the same level as Tom. You know, and they all kind of came from different places. Joe's dad worked for the union. They met with the lawyers related to the union. I mean, they were very open-minded, but in the end, they selected Tom, and Jessica's family picked another attorney, which now, thank God,
because they did get their money.
They got their money, and it was great. And they had a female attorney, Deborah Bogart, who's, you know, an incredible attorney, who was just, you know, took Renee to go get her, you know, help her buy her outfit for mediation, which is Jessica's mom. So here she is in this, you know, months after her daughter dies. You don't think that's a big deal, but for your lawyer to take you shopping to make sure you know what to wear to mediation so that you can represent your daughter.
Yeah.
That's, you know, so those were the differences.
Yes.
So not everybody's Tom Girardi. Just, you know, I know we love to make fun of lawyers, and they are fun to make fun of because,
yes,
you know, they're
now
lawyers.
you have a voicemail that he left you when, if you want to, do you want to, we could just put it up to the mic and play it. You have a voicemail that he left you. And this is when you then tell us what this voicemail is following, what action and what time this was taking place.
So this voicemail is from July 8th, 2019.
Mm-hmm.
And this would have been, so June 26th, Tom is...
June 26th, 2019.
2019.
Okay.
We file for Tom to no longer be the attorney for my son's case. And then the following day, Kathy's family files the lawsuit for their money.
Okay.
So this would be about 2 weeks later. This is July 8th.
So now he has the lawsuit.
Yeah, he knows he's being sued
for the
this
money that he took from Joe.
He knows that my case is moved to the firm too, so we can continue to try to handle my son's case. And so this is his response to me.
Okay.
Because he knows that me and Kathy are doing this in tandem.
Okay.
Hey, Kimberly, this is your old pal, Tom. I just want to let you know there are no hard feelings, son. If you think this is a better direction, I want you to do it. I have great admiration for your courage and your spunk and your internal desires, and I like to think that you're a lot like me. So, but I wish you the absolute very best. But you know, maybe you can do some good out there. So, and once again, I have no quarrel. If you think this is a better direction, I want you to do whatever you think. So this is that has nothing to do with anything, and we advanced quite a bit of money on some stuff, and we make no claim for any of that. We only will have a claim if you're successful to get our costs back in the case. But that's it. You're wonderful. I think the world of you. It's great to have people like you out there with a strong heart and a great desire to make things right. Thanks, Kim.
So even if I'm making him right, I guess he still thinks I have a good heart. I mean, you know, I just think it's, and maybe he was trying to, I don't know what he was doing. Like, was he trying to, like, act like he wasn't afraid of me and Kathy?
I think he was still trying to say in a nice way, like, hey, you don't want me to represent you anymore? Fine. Just know that we did do a lot. And if you get this, I'm still entitled to it.
He didn't do a lot, though. That's what's ridiculous.
Right, exactly.
The amount of money he advanced on the case. Like, for example, here's, you know, one of the experts in my son's case, a lot of people know who he is because Will Smith played him in the movie Concussion, Dr.
Right.
Amalu. So he did pay Dr. Amalu $30,000. There was that, but he hadn't paid any of the other experts. The law firm that took over got stuck with Tom's bills because he wasn't doing it.
Right.
So, and we were, in just a few months after we moved the case, the defendants file a motion for summary judgment and throw like 1,300 pages at us to toss the case out. And luckily, you know, the new law firm steps up. And, you know, my co-plaintiff is a paralegal of 30 years, so she's a mom on a mission too. You don't mess with her either. You know, we work on the case and we file 1,700 pages back. I mean, boom. But guess what? The judge throws the case out and says that Dr. Amalu is not qualified to testify on CTE, you know, the guy who discovered it. So, you know, here we are. So we're on appeal. We found out yesterday on a Sunday that my son's case will go up before the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals on August 30th, 2021, 2 days short of 7 years after his death.
Wow. Well,
So-
we wish you luck on that.
So, you know, there's still
Yeah.
a chance for a happy ending. That's what we
Yeah.
say.
But I did love that your thing of like, who are we going to call Ghostbusters? Because he was so, you know, connected. And I thought that was pretty telling of feeling like your hands are really tied once you got in business with him, you know. And I wonder also, like, some people thought, oh, well, I don't think this would have happened had COVID not happened, because he would have gotten all this money from these other cases, but you had already filed before COVID. So
Yep.
he was already, you were already trying. And then when this happened, then he gave the Joe's family and Joe $1 million, and he still owed $11 million, and that's when he just said, "Oh, by the way, I don't have any more money." Right.
So in the doc where Kathy explains that they got the $1 million, and then he was supposed to pay another payment of $2 million, and he never did. Well, that's when he has to answer for that in their lawsuit, and that's when he admits that he was going to borrow the $2 million to pay them the next payment. So that's admitting you don't have it. That's admitting you don't have their money anymore. Mm-hmm. This is under penalty of perjury. He admits he doesn't have the money, and then he admits that no one will lend it to him anymore.
Yeah.
So, you know, and this is September 2020 when he's explaining it. But the lawsuit, he's explaining that they saw their lawsuit complaint, the lenders. And they're like, you know, we think you're too big of a risk now. Well, good.
Yeah.
They should be. Why is anyone, I don't care what interest rate it is. Why would anybody still be loaning someone money who's being sued for millions of dollars from other lenders and from his clients? That's the biggest red flag that you could imagine, is having actual clients. And the Regomez's did a news story with NBC, their local station, to make sure that it was on the record that they had sued him and that he had taken their money. So just because they didn't do a PR circus with poor Joe,
it was out
doesn't
there.
mean that they didn't take a stand and made sure that people could see it. And there are other people, you know, that referenced it, you know, later, that they saw it and they knew that that was part of the problem.
I mean, the thing I said on the doc that was true was, like, you saw Andy Cohen ask her about these lawsuits, which was yours included, and she's on Watch What Happens Live, and she's like, well, you know, it's a lawsuit. I can't talk about it. That's what happened. The bigger the life, the bigger the problem. The other one got settled, and there's one that we're working on now. And to the people at home, we were like, all right, bring on the Pat the Puss crew. Like, we weren't going to go, you know, digging down.
Headhunting.
I mean,
as
and
much
most
as we
people
make
don't.
fun of the internet, they're not, for the most part, that's not happening.
Yeah. And so this happened right after the doc came out. Erika Jayne is dumped by lawyers due to lack of trust after documentary airs. Does evidence suggest that the star was refusing to cooperate? That was super juicy. And then they came back and said, no, we will still represent you.
The next day.
So we're like
24
what?
hours later.
Also, I noticed that, you know, his furniture is being sold, the office furniture.
Yeah.
The house just got reduced down to $13 million, but it is not sold yet. Her clothes.
11 and a half.
Now it's down to 11 and a half.
Yes.
Okay.
Which I don't understand because of all the acreage. You know, there's a ton of land. And the park, the grounds there was made by the same guy who did Central Park.
Well, people said that was very overpriced to start.
I don't know.
Because, you know, it's dated, it's this, it's that. It's also like who wants it? You know, it's like.
I know. You want to go
like,
pray in that chapel or what?
Yeah. I mean, and it's also
So
like,
freaky.
you know, and like young.
That really freaks me out now. I used to think that was so cool. Like, I'm thinking, did they meditate? You know?
Yeah.
I mean, you know, okay, maybe yoga. I wasn't thinking like she was doing Hail Marys in there.
It's very dated too. So like anybody that has real money is going to have to put a lot more real money into it to update it. If there was some young, you know, 35-year-old rich couple with Silicon Valley money or whatever, that's not really what that
feels like blood money to people. Like,
yeah.
I know like no one died there, but
it's almost like embarrassing to be like, oh,
Yeah,
and
I
guess
live at
what?
that,
We bought
you
the
know.
Erika Jayne house.
it's
Yes,
like saying I bought Bernie Madoff's old, you know,
Yeah.
penthouse in New York or something. I mean, you know, I don't know. I mean, maybe some
and
people
bad
would think
and
it's
bad
cool,
bad vibes.
Bad
like this was
vibes.
you know, this wasn't. Now you realize this was not a good marriage. And what about when? Then after, so now we're watching the show and we see that she did file for divorce on November 4th. She's coming in and about to talk to them that the show, that's this going to be this week. And so we're seeing all that happen. And then also what happened back then was, remember, she posted on Instagram that she had screenshots of an exchange that he had with a female judge where they're clearly having sex, and it was on a BlackBerry. And people were like, well, is this from 15 years ago?
It was a flip phone because
A
Tom
flip
has,
phone.
he still has a flip. I mean, I
Yes.
don't know. As of a couple of years ago, he
Yes.
still had a flip phone like the one that was in the picture. So,
But my thing was her motivation to put that out there to like, hey, everybody, be on my side. He was cheating on me, and that's why I broke up with him. But people are like, well, this is still long
Yeah.
ago because now this woman is married to someone
No,
else. So you obviously knew he was cheating, and you put it in, you know, in the safe to bring it out later.
He was going to fall on the sword and say, you know, I did it all. Erika knew nothing. She's young, and, you know, she's going to plead the fifth and say nothing, know nothing, do nothing, and go on her merry way. I mean, and you heard in the doc too, one of the lawyers said, oh, well, you know, we got nervous because, you know, Erika filed for divorce. I mean, if you didn't have an inside scoop, I mean, that would be kind of a you know, red flag that somebody who's having a transactional marriage with somebody for a number of years is leaving now.
Yeah.
So that could be a big
Right.
sign that something's really wrong, you know. So either she thought there was no money and the, you know, there was no need for the relationship anymore, or she knew that she needed to get out now, and maybe she put that out and to test the waters. You know, from a PR standpoint, it just seems bizarre. I mean, you should come out saying what you know, and everyone can say she can't say anything. She has her contract. She can't say anything because of you know, criminal aspects. You know, I don't know. I just know that the victims are, you know, incredibly powerful stories.
Yeah.
And to ignore them is just a mistake, in my opinion. And I don't, you know, I'm not giving legal advice because I'm not an attorney. But, you know, it's just going to continue to bite her in the ass that she's not recognizing the victims. And the biggest mistake she made is when she put that graphic with widows and orphans for the earrings. Why would you do that?
Wait,
Why would
when
you
did she do
post-
that?
It's on
On
Instagram.
Instagram?
Yes. And someone wrote this
Oh, I
thing,
have to
and,
look
and
that
she
up.
wrote scapegoat as the
Yes.
she wrote scapegoat as the
Description.
on the Instagram post, and so she's a scapegoat for the orphans and widows money. To me, it was the most distasteful thing she did, and she doesn't realize that stuff actually impacts the people who are affected.
And you know, even it's weird that even if he wasn't doing something illegal, when you look back at it, you're like, it is kind of gross how much she flaunted the money and how much we had, since it was from, even though he's entitled to that 40%,
Yeah.
it was kind of like, ew, like you're not really doing great things with it. It's just being put on your body. But I think that's where I think she isn't that smart. People can fight me on, I don't think she is that smart, because someone smart would have gone, you know what, I don't want to show how much money I have. I want to, like, You know, I want to
But
act.
really
I want to
think
do a
they
little
thought
more.
that was their ticket out. And here's the other thing: when Kathy started watching the show because she
Your
wanted
friend,
to
the
see,
mom
yeah,
of
my friend
Joe.
Kathy, Joe's mom, started watching the show to kind of see what was,
Yeah.
any kind of window into their life, whatever. And our conversation during the whole first season was, would they do this show if they were really doing something wrong? I mean, we kind of bought that there's no way they're going to go on there and be like, I'm wrapped in money and stuff and whatever,
Yeah.
and it's someone else's. Like, so we were like, wow, maybe. And she didn't come off that bad the first season, even though some of her quotes or whatever, you didn't really see her enough to, kind of go, ooh, God, this is cringy,
I think she has no entertainment experience until then. She went and did Pride. She bought the stage for Pride.
Right.
No, Mikey would come out and go, she's got the #1 iTunes hit single, which you can buy. And then she did go, Erika Jayne, who all the gay guys didn't know who she was. She never got paid. That only cost her money. Then she gets, and people want to please producers. So now the producers are like, show us your, the ring. Say how much it is. Show us your closet. Have your glam. Can I have the glam squad come? Well, if you could pay for it, I think it's kind of great to show that you're at the level of Madonna. Like, that's what the audience wants to see. Those producers know how to get, and then the people want to please the producers.
I mean, her end result was quality as far as her costumes and the lighting and the production itself. She literally
She literally was Madonna in Truth or Dare, except Madonna has hit songs and is an artist who actually can sing and stuff. Hers were all just like bought. Everything was bought. It was all fake it till you make it kind of a thing.
One of my quotes that got cut from the doc was, I said she has karaoke talent with a rock star budget. That's sort of how I saw Erika. It was like
100%.
I mean, but
not
she
even
kind of grew into at least the
not even karaoke
part
because it was all they auto tune and stuff too.
Yeah.
But
well, karaoke you have alcohol. It's kind of like auto tune.
Right. Yes. Exactly.
Everyone sounds good.
Exactly, especially in your own head. But
right.
But then what I was reminded of over the weekend is the Zen Blonde had posted, who's been on my show before. She's great, very investigative too in her content. She's like, let's remember that there was a robbery in February of 2019 at the Pasadena mansion. But nobody could find any police report that says like a Chagall was stolen. These diamond earrings were stolen. So what was stolen?
So again,
and a police record, like, is there any chance that the police didn't share or do the proper paperwork for a robbery or Warriors or the
these
insurance
PR stunts,
or I don't know.
It's just like her putting out an old text or something about a relationship. We all know that if she was the wife of 20-something years, that she knew what was going on for a certain amount of time.
Right.
I feel like they throw things out or do things to see what will be the response to test the waters. But every time it's been like lethal. It hasn't gone very well. It's really gone awry. So I think that they thought, for a number of years, all publicity was good publicity.
Right.
And I think we're beginning to see that that's not necessarily true anymore.
Yes.
Maybe you do need to be a good person.
Yeah, maybe you do. The other thing I was going to bring up, very interesting, is in the doc, the music that plays is Boy George's Karma Chameleon. Great song. But who manages Boy George?
No.
PK.
I know.
Dorit's husband.
So juicy.
Dorit being the co-star of her. When were we doing this doc? We were doing it like, I don't know, probably 5 months ago. Now, they could have just issued the song at the tail end of the editing.
Exactly.
And Erika, we don't know where she stands with, we don't know where Dorit stands with Erika.
When I said the chameleon quote, like, I was literally like, I swear to God. I'm like, Culture Club is so LA.
Yeah.
And I was just like, come on, I was like, but I didn't know what I never said anything to anybody. I just kind of in the back of my mind thought, God, wouldn't that be cool if they were able to get the rights to that song and play it, and then this with the palm trees and the shuffling feet and all that, and then that was so
there's
great.
A scene, because I know you don't watch Housewives of Beverly Hills, but there was a scene maybe a season or two ago. They go to have lunch, and Erika sits down, and PK and Dorit's son Jagger just goes, "Bad madman. He has a little English accent too. And she goes, Jacka, don't say that to Erika, mind you. That's my friend.
Oh, wow. No one sent me that. I get a lot of people send me clips now, but I've never seen that one.
It's amazing. That little kid might be like a little
Wow.
omen. And the last thing I was going to say that I was reminded of is I have sat through the 30-minute TED Talk X Pasadena show that Erika Jayne put on. That was like, obviously Mikey and a speechwriter wrote it with her, along with whoever wrote the book. And, you know, and the way that she does this thing is like, hello. So I'm at a retreat. It says some expensive place in, it starts out in Phoenix, Arizona. My husband is a world-renowned attorney, and he's off doing what he does. And he says, darling, go to this spa. And as I sit there and watch the trickling water just go along the rocks, I see that there's time going by. And I said, Erika, maybe you don't get those 4 massages that were booked for you tomorrow. Maybe you sit down and think about, where is this water going? I mean, I swear to God, it's like that bad, okay? Then she talks about how, like, and then I got on a little show called The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. And then she pauses, waiting for people in the audience to be like it was just so... and then when I saw, I go, this is so bad. Wow. I'm sure she had the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills cameras there, and whatever reason, they're just like, we're not going to share this. But there's no way she did this and not have it be done during filming. And, you know, I thought that'd be another thing. I've got so many things going on. I've got a collaboration with Pat the Puss Body Glitter, and then I've got a TED Talk X Pasadena, which is not like an Elon Musk type of TED Talk. This is like...
Hey, but she leveled up to Too Faced, and what's the irony in that brand's name?
Oh, does she work with Too Faced now? Does she?
Yeah, didn't she do like a whole makeup line?
Oh, is that with Too Faced? I don't know if it is. I have the Pat the Puss glitter, body glitter.
If I remember right, it was Too Faced.
Those things, by the way,
and the Dazzle shoe thing.
But also, those things don't make any money. That's just a licensing thing, so that
what does she get,
no
like
money.
A penny for each unit sold or something? I don't even know.
Or
if she even gets a unit.
Sometimes it's just a flat fee.
Yeah,
like, we're going to use your likeness, and I don't know. It's kinda different
like
every time. Yes.
Yeah. In name only.
Kim, this has been really juicy, and I hope that any other thing that comes up, you're my Juicy Scoop legal consultant now in this case. I hope you have good news come August for your own case regarding your son, and that I know you guys that Joe is first in line. Yes. So if someone wants to buy that house, go and buy it, because these victims deserve to have their money, and at least they, you know, you're getting it from there. Do you know if there's a loan on the house?
There are no loans on the house, so you know,
it's not outright.
You know, all the assets have loans on them, or like even the jets, he only owns 2/3 of it, and these aren't, you know, brand new jets, although, you know, there were something they're made, you know, 1 or 2 million is what basically in the end, you know, and I might be being a little generous on that, will come out of these planes that you hear about. So you know, it's the cost to fly planes, really, not just what to buy one.
Well, tell everybody where they can follow you if they have questions for you.
So you can find me on Twitter at Kimberly Archie, or on Instagram at Sure Safety. And we also have a website called GirardiFraud.com. If you have been a victim of Tom Girardi or had issues at Girardi Keese, you can connect with me and Kathy there.
Great. Thank you so much. Thanks.
Thanks for having me.
Always.